all, and welcome to a special Saturday live stream where we're going to talk about a couple of things. And first of all, I just want to say there we go. I got that old intro out. Haven't done it in a while, so I figured, what the hell. First of all, greeting my panel. Welcome Minion, welcome Speaker, and welcome Stone Loki.
Wow.
Everybody is doing well. As we can see, we have two people coming in by truck, so this is good. So I wanted to take a quick spin through chat, say hello to whoever may be out there, if my computer will let me. First of all, welcome Mrs. Canuck. Welcome, my dear. Thank you for taking time out of your day to mod the chat, and I know you hate that intro, but, you know, we'll have to work on it. And Troy, welcome, sir. Good to see you. Chris Persia, good to see you. And I think we're good. And what do you know? The Element bot is running. All right. So today we are going to talk about something that, my prime minister has deemed a small, couple, 5 trucks and a couple 4x4s. Even though, the evidence would be to the contrary, but, whatever. And we're going to talk about Convoy 2020. And we're going to talk about some interesting topics that many people have different feelings on, and it can be a little bit of a touch button situation. But I want to stress, as I did yesterday, these are the opinions of those who are on the panel. We are not sitting here and saying we are right. We're not saying that we're, if you don't like our opinion, then you are a blah, 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 because you know what? Media does that enough.
Oh, I am.
Well, yeah, you can, but
just kidding.
We won't call you a Yahtzee for disagreeing with us, unlike news media and prime ministers. So first of all, let's cover what's going on. So basically what's happened, and this is as bare bones as I can get it. There has been a lot of regulations. There's been a lot of mandates, especially up here in Canada, that have really affected things and affected people's lives and livelihoods. And whether you're for or against, I think it is the wrong approach to belittle, to demonize, and to attack somebody just because they believe differently than you. Just because they don't see it the way you see it. I think it is a wrong approach to bastardize and basically outlaw a group of people because they disagree with you. I do this on my channel. I know Loki does it on his. He says his opinion. He gives you his opinion every morning. And to be in Valhalla, you don't have to agree with that opinion.
Oh, hell no.
Right?
People disagree with me all the time. Hashtag blame Loki.
Yes. I really should have worked out a better deal on that. But anyway, just bugging you, brother. Just bugging you. But, we sit here in a world where it is sad that in our little groups, we accept others for who they are, no matter if they agree with us or not. They are okay. Like, for instance, Loki and I, I like Picard, he hates it. We're still best brothers. Thick as thieves. We don't agree on a show. So as far as civilization is concerned, I should hate him and he should hate me because we disagree on a fucking show.
I still blame him, by the way, when he said that Q was going to come in and fix everything, and now Q's going to come in and not fix anything. They took his idea. It's all his fault. Hashtag blame Canuck.
No, orchestrated by Canuck. Hashtag blame Loki. I may be the evil emperor behind the scenes going, excellent. But, you're the front guy. You're the Vader.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is proceeding as I have
foreseen. Yes, exactly. So, and as yesterday, I thought it was appropriate that I have people on here that, on this panel, because I'm not a trucker. I can't even, I'm not going to sit up here and say I know what they're going. No, I have no fucking clue. Yes, my brother is a trucker, lifelong. My uncle, my late uncle, was a trucker, lifelong. But I thought it was appropriate that we have people on this panel that actually do this day in, day out. Because in a lot of ways, our opinion matters squat. It's the lady sitting beside me in a truck right now and Speaker, who really have a dog in this fight. And, yes,
literally in Minion's
literally, yes. So I thought we'd go around and kind of talk about this, and just kind of get our first opinions. So we'll start with Minion, and we'll go around to Speaker, and then just to Loki, and we'll get the opening comments out of the way, and then we'll go from there. So Minion, floor is yours.
Thank you. It's very nice of you to invite me on. I really don't have a big understanding of what Canadian truckers are going through at this moment. I only have what I'm doing here in the United States, which, we have so many regulations that, half the time I'm just shake my head going, why don't you just get your little fingers out of everybody's pie and let us work? I mean, that's all we want to do, is we want to do our job. And I think that's all the truckers in Canada want to do, is they just want to do their job and be good at what they do. And, that's what our job is, kind of humanitarian. We bring all the stuff that you guys need. I mean, why would you make it harder for us to do our job?
Exactly.
I think you just need to let go just a tiny bit.
I agree. And Speaker.
Well, I have a special spot in my heart for Canada because I spent 10 years going in and out of Canada as a truck driver. I crossed the border twice a week for 10 years, pulling a double set of hoppers, hauling ag commodities between the two countries. Pardon me. And so I know a lot of Canadians. I've spent a lot of time around Canadian truck drivers. I've been as far north in Canada as Edmonton and even further north than that. So I spent most of my time in Western Canada, which is British Columbia, Alberta, Manitoba, Saskatchewan. And so I know a lot of people up there. and just being a truck driver, this is, I think, without a doubt, one of the most heavily regulated industries in the country, in both countries. And I understand what those guys are going through up there. We're going through it down here to a certain extent as well, although they haven't been able to put the same kind of mandates on us as they are up there, mainly because right now Canada's government's almost worse than ours in a lot of respects as far as that goes. But I feel for those guys, and I feel for what they're going through, and I understand what they're trying to do. But as we go through this, I can tell you I sympathize with them, and yet I don't totally agree with the way they're going about this. So that's my take on this, but that's what I think so far.
Okay, and Loki.
I haven't done the long hauling that Apollomy and Speaker have done. I think I went out of state 3 times in 5 years. It was almost all local runs, all deliveries off of a flatbed. But one of the things I did for about a year and a half was I got put in head of training and safety. And I got to the point probably about 3 or 4 months in where I could talk to someone, and within 10 minutes I would be able to tell you, okay, they're going to be here for a while, or no, in the next month or two they're going to be gone. And we had two instances where something really bad happened. One, someone blew all the tires out on the right side of a truck. And they said they didn't do anything. They were just driving and all the tires blew out on the whole right side of the truck. Obviously, that's horseshit. The other one was there was a 2-ton welding machine on the side of a door that they strapped to the door. And when the weight shifted and it pushed the door open on the freeway, the door and the machine went bouncing down the freeway. Both of these people, I said they're not going to make it more than a month. What you have to do to get your hazmat to drive this truck, what you have to do to get licensed to drive this truck, it is like Speaker was saying a minute ago. It is one of the most regulated things. It's tough. This is not easy. You have to get cleared by the federal government. You have to pass your hazmat test. I think it was like 2 questions. You missed 2 or 3 questions on that, and that's it. You're done. You're back to trying to take it over again, and you can only take it 3 times in a year. At least that's what it was when I was doing it. The regulation is insane. But you're going to get people that have absolutely no idea what they're doing, have never done anything like this before, and they're out there driving. There has to be a balance. And when other forces outside of this network is saying, you have to do this our way, that's even more of a giant boot on you as a driver. Just trying to work your job. And if you are good at your job, you do not want outside forces saying, well, you can't do this and you have to do this and it has to be done this way, yada, yada, yada. That's beyond what you have to do as a driver. No driver, good driver anyway, thinks they're Superman and can do everything. And they shouldn't be put in a position where they have to be a Superman. No owner should be telling you, well, you have to drive 20 hours today. There are rules in place so that doesn't happen. Now, that doesn't mean some people don't do it anyway or didn't do it when I was doing it, but there are rules in place to keep you safe, to keep other people safe. Then there's almost like too much of a rule. And that's what we're looking at here with what's going on in Canada. You already have enough things to deal with. You don't need to be dealing with all this other shit at the same time. You don't need bureaucrats breathing down your neck when you're just trying to do your job. You're trying to get your goods to where they're going. You're trying to keep people fed, keep people clothed, keep supplies going to stores. And obviously, we have seen the empty shelves. Shit's not happening the way they're supposed to. Something's wrong. And just like Scotty always said, the more they overtake the planning captain, the easier it is to stop up the train. And that's exactly what they're doing. They're making it too complicated. And you can't make it. And then you get deregulation. And that's exactly the opposite end of it. Everybody can just do whatever they want. Hey, you know what, boys? I'm going to get my 16-year-old boy in here driving every day. And they'll do it. Shit, because there aren't any rules anymore. It has to be a balance.
Yeah, I agree. And so right now there are truckers and they're still like today I went out to get a couple things in the house and there are still semis rolling through the city on their way to Ottawa because it's all weekend. And to me, I think the most disappointing thing of this whole thing is whether it's right or wrong, because we can argue that till we turn green, whether their opinion is right or wrong, whether they should just suck it up, get the vaccine so they can do their job, which is basically Trudeau's talking point. Right? The problem with that is the government comes out and they say, okay, you have a choice. No, you don't. You really don't. If you want to do anything right now, especially up here, I don't know, state. I know it changes state to state. It changes province to province up here. But for the most part, they've been a united front. For the most part. Quebec's gone a little crazy loopy, but that's normal for Quebec. But Speaker being up here knows exactly what I'm talking about. But anyway, So
They're you guys
They-
is New York.
yeah, so basically what they've said is to cross the border, to be able to cross the border between Canada and the United States, you have to be vaccinated. You have to be able to prove you're vaccinated to cross the border driving truck. If you can't cross that border. And a lot of guys and gals, well, if they can't cross the border, they don't have a job. They just don't. Period. You don't have a job. And as nice as it is to say, well, just get the damn vaccine and get whatever. It's what you got to do. Okay, I'll be with you on that. What happens if next week they go, well, in order to do this, you have to. Well, okay, your job. They did this in security, so I can use this as a good example. When I started security, it was very, very easy to get in. And then it was a good thing they started regulating. And you needed your security license. When I started security, it was you went in, you took a day course, and then you did a multiple choice thing, which was, if you had a IQ above rock, you could complete this form. And then you went down to your local Kodak store and they took a picture of you and it got put on a little laminate and there was your security license. Okay. Then they brought in regulations. So then you needed your child abuse registry, you needed your crim check, you needed a lot of things. Then it went through the government. The government sent you a license, yada, yada, yada. So it was more regulated, which was fine. But then they turned around and they started going, well, you also need a grade 12 now. Well, there was a lot of guards that this was a low tier business, right? This wasn't something you went to college for. And they're like, well, okay, but I've been doing this for 10 years. I don't have my grade 12. Does that mean then if you left the company you're in right now, went to apply at another one, they'd ask you for your grade 12. They wouldn't even look at your resume without a grade 12. And there was guards that had been in it for 20 years. They had to stay with the company they were with because if they went to move, they wouldn't be able to do the field they did over a piece of paper. So before we jump on the bandwagon of just do it and, suck it up and just get it done, just remember this isn't the only thing that they can do this with. What next?
Yeah. When does it stop?
Yeah. What's next? If you
Another
yield the
variant.
line, right? If you yield the line now, oh yeah, there's going to be 18 of those.
There's already been 19.
Yeah.
There's 20 now.
Yeah, they're trying to make.
And there's
it longer
21 and 22.
Well,
So
yeah,
they'll
but
find something for this year.
well, you've got it. Easter's coming. We're gonna have to have something to fuck that up. I mean, oops.
I just want them. I mean, with the names that they're giving them, once they came out with Omicron, I'm like, okay, what's next? Like Megatron, Optimus Prime, like what? I mean,
Bumblebee.
if you're gonna give them these retarded names, just do something cool. I mean, just
let's call the next one Darth Maul just for fun. 'Cause Darth Maul didn't last that long either, so. It's crazy because
Troy Pacelli says, "My body, my choice." Where did that go?
Out the window. And
that's only to kill babies.
Don't even get me started on that shit. Do not even get me started on that shit. God help me. You know what? We've heard it for 30 fucking years that people should have the ability to choose what goes into their body, what doesn't go into their body, all this bullshit, what you can do with your own body. It's your body, your choice. Yeah, 30 fucking years I've heard this shit. And now it's like, fuck all that. That's out the window. And by the same people who've been screaming my body, my choice for 30 years. The same fucking people.
Yep. But that's only when you want to kill a baby. Anything else, government, you just do what they say.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, but again, like I said, in everything you do, every choice you make, you set something called a precedent. I used to be a union shop steward. I loved past precedent. When I go into a conflict resolution meeting, I loved past precedent because you could get the dumbest mother trucker off of something just by going, but you did it with this guy. Billy Bob over here did the exact same thing last week, and he didn't have anything happen to him. Why are you slapping this guy? And you get him off. Past precedent. It's a wonderful thing. And unfortunately, with this, think of it this way. What's next? What is the next thing that you have to just suck up and do?
Because once they've crossed this threshold, once they can tell you what you can and can't do with your body, it's over. They own you. You're cattle. That's it.
No.
I mean, this is the end line. If they can go this far, there is nothing they cannot tell you have to do. And they know it. That's why they're pushing this so hard.
Yes. And not only that, but, it's frustrating to me. And now I'm going to get myself in trouble. So everybody on the panel, I'm sorry you're on the panel that this is going to be brought up, because in likelihood somebody's going to get pissed off at me right now, but I don't give a fuck. I have the whiskey, so I can really get really fun if I really want to. So here's the thing. Let's look at and analyze what's going on right now. Hardworking men and women, whether they're right or wrong, peacefully drove from one end of this country to the other. There was no fires. There were no statues torn down. Yes, the Terry Fox statue got a flag put on it and a freaking cardboard sign that can be taken off in 5 minutes. Go away. Do not tell me that this is a terrible act. Go away. When I know that a certain peaceful protest that happened here in Winnipeg over the summer had a Queen Victoria statue torn down and a Queen Elizabeth statue torn down, to the fact that now it's going to cost us taxpayers a whole lot of money because they're re-putting them back.
Well, at least they're doing that. Hell, in the States, they're not even putting them back.
Oh, no. The Queen Victoria statue in front of the legislature is being rebuilt as we speak.
Abe Lincoln's a horrible bastard now in this guy. I mean, Black Lives Matter tearing down statues of Abraham Lincoln. I mean, when I saw that, I'm just like, it's over. Just burn it. I don't care.
Yeah.
Nothing makes sense anymore.
So my point to that is, you look at what's going on. So these men and women in their trucks, cars, semis, drive to Ottawa because they have an issue. An issue. They don't agree. And they're bringing it to the king of the land, as it were, Mr. Trudeau. Now, if you hit your Wayback Machine and you think of the last time that there was a major, one of these major protests in Ottawa, where there was suspected violence, there was suspected damage, Trudeau did not leave the capital. Instead, he went out and kneeled in front of them and said, "We will make this better. I'm here to talk to you." A group of truckers have an issue with him, and he runs away. And he refuses to talk to them.
Secret, secure location.
Well, not really. He's over at the cabin, but that's besides the point. But here's my problem. Whether they're right or wrong is another issue, and you can argue that till you turn blue. The point I'm making is it's the wrong approach. Think of it this way. What would have happened if, when Trudeau finds out that there is a convoy of disgruntled Canadians on their way to the capital Trudeau said, let him in. Trudeau's words
Let-
were, let him in.
Let them air their grievances.
Let him in. And when they got here, Trudeau met with them. Doesn't have to make a big deal out of it. Just meet with them. He doesn't even have to do anything to agree with them. Just meet with them. Give them their 5 minutes. What's so wrong with that? If this was about other issues that have come up in the last year or 2 years, he'd be right there with the cameras going and the whole 9 yards. But because it's something that goes against him, he dodges it. He discredits these men and women. He tries to vilify them. And he belittles them on national television. Which I hate to tell you doesn't do you any good. Doesn't. All it does is feeds the fire.
For wrong thinking. That's
Yes.
the part of his speech that really got me. These people have the wrong thinking. And I'm just like,
unacceptable views is the exact
so yeah,
quote.
we're policing thoughts now? Like there, I mean, in this country we have freedom of speech. Canada has something similar, but I mean, when that goes out the window, it's just a house of cards at that point. If you can be policed because of your thought crimes, I mean, I don't know where you go from there. Like, oh, you have the wrong thoughts. It's like, well, they're not talking about like rounding up the Jews and killing. I mean, they're not. They're just upset that you're trying to take away their freedoms.
Yes.
You see the difference there? It's like one of those is evil and one of those is not. And
Yeah.
But he's equating the two. Oh, wrong think means, oh, they agree with slavery and stuff. And it's just like, no, that's like you're trying to, you're comparing apples and bowling balls. Not the same thing.
Yeah. And I sit there and I've been leafing through some of the news broadcasts because I don't want to come up here and, just ramble about stuff I have no idea about. But they like to latch on, like somebody will say something really stupid and that's what they latch on to. Right? Somebody will say something really stupid, and I'm sorry, if you get a group more than 5 people, somebody's going to say something stupid. Like Discovery is a good show. But, you're going to get that 1 out of the 10 that, goes the other way. And you're going to, in every topic, you're going to have your far to one side, your middle ground, and then you're far to the other side. And unfortunately, the way that they get them is they grab the one guy who's completely off the rocker, and that's the one that gets on the news. Right? The guy who's completely off his rocker, that's the guy that gets on the news or the tabloid or what have you, because it backs up their view.
Mm-hmm.
There was a interview done on, I can't remember, I think it was CBC or something, and this guy literally stood there and said, they're doing this wrong, they're idiots because they're going to the capital to talk to Trudeau when the mandates are provincial governments. They obviously don't know how our system works. Oi. Yes, it's provincially done. The provincial governments have their own say. The rules in Manitoba are different than the rules in Ontario. The rules in Saskatchewan are different than BC. BC is different than Alberta, and so on and so on. However, it's led from the top. Because here's my retort to that stupidity. If Trudeau came out tomorrow and said, "Fuck it," as far as I'm concerned, in Ottawa and Ontario, everything is back to normal. Open it up. No more mandates. How long do you think the provincial leaders are going to buck that? Not long, because they need
No.
the money and the support from the federal government to do any of it. So to sit there and say, well, they're going to the leader of the country when it's provincial mandates. Yeah, it is provincial mandates, but they all go by the lead. And
It's
the
just
lead
like
right now,
Biden in this country forcing a national mandate using OSHA to punish companies who won't force their workers to get, vaccinated and stuff like that. So I mean, even though the states can try and turn against that, they're still subject to the federal law because federal law is always supreme in cases.
Yeah,
So
they're not fighting that anymore because they
Yeah.
can't. It's unconstitutional
Yeah, the
for
Supreme
OSHA to
Court came
tell.
out
Yeah.
and overturned it. Yep. So I mean, but Biden knew that when he did it.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, it was just, but he didn't care because he figured by the time it got through the courts, he'd have pushed his will on everybody anyway. And
Well,
all the big companies followed up with him, and it was like, okay.
Yep.
Like,
All the airlines are following it. The school systems were following it. There's a whole bunch of the medical industry was following it, and they got away with the medical one. Yeah, you have to have it if you're part of the medical field.
Yep. Which my wife's a nurse, so that directly affects her. And I mean, she got it anyway, just to be on the safe side. But I'm not vaccinated, and I just spent a week with my elderly parents, who both came down with COVID, taking care of them. And yet I'm not sick. I haven't had any problems and stuff. And I'm not saying do or don't get vaxxed. That's up to you. That's up to your own personal opinions. And if you want to take the risk, that's fine and stuff. But it's just like, I'm not going to be afraid of my parents, and I'm not going to live my life in fear either, which is what they want. So I'm just like, do what your conscience.
Yeah, they don't want you to leave the house.
Don't tell me how to live my life. It's just like, because you guys are constantly, if it's not this, it's swine flu. If it's not that, it's something, there's always going to be something to be afraid of. Life is not risk averse. Life is about risk. And I could get killed tomorrow walking across the street as just as easily as dying from COVID. So you can't live in a bubble. So until they make that a possibility, nah.
I am sorry. I gotta go.
oh, no problem.
I'm running out of time, and I got 7 hours, and
You roll
got 8
on,
hours left of today.
Thank you for coming on. I greatly appreciate it, and we'll have you on again. Thank you so very much.
All right, you guys have a wonderful day. Thank you.
You too, Paul. It was so good seeing you again.
See you, Minion.
All right, so for the panel, I have a comment that I think we can bring up. My brain will work, and I'll read it. There it is. All right, so Mortimus Maximus asks, hello there, Rambling Canuck. Question for the panel you have assembled. Are the difficulties in the general public is now encountering, buying groceries, etc., a desired outcome for the convoy? And I'll let that one go to speaker.
No, they're not trying to hurt the average people. They're trying to help average people understand the plight that they're dealing with. And that's the problem. Far too long, the trucking industry, doesn't matter what country you're in, it's been overregulated. The drivers are treated like garbage. I mean, it is seriously, as a truck driver, I was thinking about this earlier today. And I was thinking, I was feeling kind of hypocritical, honestly, because if trucks are out there blocking the road and causing problems, I was like, yeah, you go, guys. And at the same time, I thought, when the Black Lives Matter people walked out onto the freeway stopping traffic, I was pissed as hell at them. And I'm like, but the problem is that truck drivers actually deal with the issues that Black Lives Matter people claim to deal with. If you've ever been a truck driver, you get discriminated against everywhere you go. Now, I'm not saying that doesn't happen to black people, and I'm not trying to lump it. This is not an overgeneralization. But as a truck driver, you're going down the road, you will see places that say no trucks allowed. Mm-hmm. You're not allowed in there simply because you're in an 18-wheeler, and not always because you won't fit, but because those people don't want you there. Or you'll pull into a place and be told and have police called on you because you dared park in an area they don't want you parking in. So I mean, and I've had that happen to me several times. I parked in an area off the beaten path because after a certain amount of time on the road, you have to stop. Legally, you are bound to stop after 11 hours of driving, and yet you will get told, like, you can't be here and you have to get run off. And I mean, the rules don't make sense. They don't apply to everybody. Just like right now, because of the fuel shortages that people are experiencing, the truck regulations have been lifted on fuel truck drivers. They can drive 24 hours straight without stopping if they want. But me, because I'm pulling a reefer or any other kind of bed, the rules still apply. But they'll still tell you it's all about safety. It has nothing to do with safety. It has everything to do with controlling people and telling people what to do. Because there's always that odd idiot that drove too far, too long, fell asleep at the wheel, and wrecked and caused a problem.
Yes.
But nobody worries about the people in the cars that are doing that. 9 times out of 10, any accident that's involved with a truck, it's the car's fault. The car was screwing with the truck and got tangled up, and that's the end of it. They did a study to try and figure out what was going on there. And 9 times out of 10, it's some asshole in a car fucking with the truck, and they lose their lives over it. And then the truck driver has to live with that, spending the rest of his life wondering, was there something I could have done?
I've got a story
I get really
about
passionate
that.
when I talk about this.
That's fine.
I apologize.
Speaker, if you don't mind, I'm going to jump in because my uncle, as I said at the open of this, drove truck for years, and there was a friend of the family that, when I was growing up, there's that one guy that you go, what's wrong with him, right? It's just a question. So my uncle would say, yeah, he used to drive truck. He ended up driving truck again, but it took 6 years for him to get behind the wheel of anything. A go-kart he wouldn't get behind the wheel of. And my uncle explained it this way. He said there was one night he was driving a fully loaded truck and he topped a hill. As he crested the hill and he started to gear down because he was going down a grade, a little P2 car cut him off at the bumper and he hit him. Because he's going downhill, he's got the weight of the truck, he's not stopping.
Nope.
And the car turned to its side, he hit him again. Car rolled all the way down the hill with the truck hitting it. Finally stopped at the bottom of the hill. Killed everybody, including the 2-year-old in the back seat. It took him.
You might as well be in a beer can. When you're dealing with those kind of weights and speed, that car might as well be a beer can to a truck.
And unless you felt that, like I drove a water weenie for a while. Unless you feel that, when you don't have baffles that like that where that weight's not like cushioned through that baffles, when that water shifts, it's literally pushing you. It's like someone pushing you on your back, pushing you forward. I've never felt anything like it in a vehicle besides that weight shift, and you're like, whoa, because you just feel it pushing you, and you're like, what in the hell? That's that water shifting and pushing you forward and going, no, I don't want to stop.
It's liquid surge is what it's called.
Well, and like, I can't say I drove a truck, but I drove a 1-ton spray truck with 2 500-gallon tanks at the back. And when you have
same principle, though.
Yes.
Right. So you turn around and you get those suckers at half and then turn left.
Yep.
That's all I gotta say.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. Even in a smaller condensed truck, you get those tanks at half and you start paying attention to your turns real quick.
Can I ask you something, speaker? And you don't have to answer me if you don't want to. Do you own or operate, or do you actually work for a company and go through all that shit? Drive for a company.
I work for a company, but I'm actually don't tell anybody, but I'm going to become an owner operator. So
Okay. So let me ask you this: and when you signed on, did they give you a bonus?
They did.
Was it more than, let's say, $5,000?
No.
Okay, so imagine this. I'm in Kroger the other day. You know, when you're walking through the grocery store, and I told Ramlin about this when we started talking about this stream.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in Kroger, and you know, it's like, ding dong, remember, Kroger guests, to please wear your masks, and if you have not been back, blah, 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 right? Yep. And then it's like, ding dong, we are offering a $30,000 sign-on bonus to our drivers. Please see store, blah, 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 for details. And I'm like, $30,000.
Yep.
Now, most likely, you have got to work for this company for a minimum of so much time before they're going to give you this $30,000 bonus. It's a sign-on bonus, but your ass ain't getting it until you worked with that company for so long. So it's not like, oh, I'll just go to work for Kroger and get $30,000 right away. But in all of my time, I have never ever heard ding dong, we are offering a $30,000 sign at $30,000 to drive for fucking Kroger.
Yep.
That is a grocery store.
Yeah.
That's
How
it.
they do those bonuses is they'll usually meter them out by the month, the longer you're there, and with a maximum payout of like $30,000. But it's metered out over a long damn time so that they can keep you in the truck.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, there was an ad in the Texas paper for oil field truck drivers.
Oh yeah.
$70,000 sign-on bonus. Oh, no, that was wrong. It was a $30,000 sign-on bonus for $70,000 a month. That's what they were willing to pay for trucks to drive in the oil fields in Texas because they couldn't get anybody.
And
I'm sure they
that's
have a whole shitload of people now.
That's a huge departure from what it was like 16 years ago, because trying to get into that industry, which is what I moved to Fort Worth to do, was get in that industry. Day one, I show up day one to drive a water truck for this oil field company. And I walk in and they're like, sorry, brother, we sold out to Devon Industries. They own us now. You're fucked. Go find another job. And I'm like, huh?
Hit the road.
What? I just moved here. I just moved my family here. No, sorry, buddy. Get to looking. And no, you got the wrong area code there, bucko. And you don't have any experience down here working with any of these other brothers. So yeah, we don't want you. And it took me over a year to get a job in the oil industry to drive a truck. And it was hauling bottles instead of water, which is what pretty much, I had my tanker, I had my ex-endorsement, hazmat, tanker, all that shit. And I didn't even do what I was moved to do. I ended up hauling bottles because it took a year for somebody to go, you know what, brother, we hired this one drunk guy once and we even knew he was an alcoholic. So fuck it. We'll roll the dice on you. And I ended up working for that company for 6 years. I ended up doing training, safety, all that shit. I was the best driver they had, but my God, it took me over a year. I worked in the prison industry for a year because that's the only place that would take me. They were like, well, fuck it. You can shoot a hair off of a dog's ass at 100 yards. We'll take you. But getting a driving job in Texas, you would think, oh man, that's going to be so easy. No, it wasn't. Not 15 years ago.
I'll tell a story that my uncle told me one night when he came home over a 6-pack of Canadian. That'll make a speaker laugh. So my uncle got picked because he'd been driving truck for so many years to train the new guy. And
worst
my
job
uncle
ever.
wasn't my uncle was not an owner op, but he knew the owner op because Long Lac, small community, everybody knows everybody. And my uncle really liked the truck he was in. It was a Kenworth, but he really liked his truck. So the owner looks at him and says, train the new guy, make sure that he knows how to drive my truck. My uncle goes, okay. So my uncle, before he leaves for work that morning, asks me for the ruler out of my kit for school. I said, why do you need that? He says, I'll tell you later. So, okay, here you go, Uncle. And he takes the ruler and he goes off to work. My uncle ended up getting in trouble because what I found out he used the ruler for was every time that the guy used the clutch after he shifted out first, my uncle would hit his knuckles with the ruler. And I knew I was going to pop speaker on that one. Every time he hit the clutch after he got it into first, my uncle would hit his knuckles with the ruler.
This ain't a Chevy, dumbass. You only use that to get going, and then after that, don't touch it.
Yeah.
So there was a guy that worked for JB Hunt that used to do deliveries to the first store that I worked at in Fort Worth. He used to bring in all our welding rod and everything, and he had this trainee with him one day, right? And the trainee was, hauling everything off the truck, doing the pallet jack, bringing it off the truck. And I talked to him. He's like, yeah, I got to train this guy. Next week, we didn't get a delivery. Nothing. Truck just didn't show up. They track down what happened. We get a new truck next week, new driver too. This guy been delivering for like a year. I talked to him, all the time. And he was like, oh yeah, Fred. And I'm like, yeah, what happened? He goes, well, he was driving down the road with the trainee. And the trainee was in the back of the truck sleeping. And he noticed, he looks out his window in his rear view or in his left, and he sees that the utility door on the cab is open. For anybody who doesn't know what a utility door is, it's a small little door behind the main door to your left. So where speaker's sitting, it'd be a little door, kind of right where his ankles are, behind him. And that utility door is just flapping back and forth. He put the truck in cruise, opened his door, grabbed the oh shit bar, and swung out and kicked that utility door shut. And when he did, his side door shut and locked. So his truck is driving down the road on cruise control, however fast they were going, with no one behind the wheel, and he's banging on the side of the fucking truck, trying to wake up the trainee when the truck goes off the road and he gets thrown off of the truck.
Oh, shit.
Now, the suits at JB Hunt go in to talk to him. And without missing a beat, they were like, what were you thinking? What were you thinking doing that? Without missing a beat, he said, I don't know. It worked the first time.
Oh.
And that was the end of his driving career.
Oh, I was going into his CDL, everything.
That was it.
Well, that was brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, it's like another story from the Bob McMahon stories of over a 6-pack of Canadian. So my uncle comes home from work and he's a little bit more cheery than he normally is. And he's walking around with his shoulders back and his chest puffed out a little bit more than normal. And after about 4 or 5 beer, I go, you're in a good mood. He says, yep. I taught a youngin' a good lesson today. And I'm like, oh no, here we go. So my Uncle Bob had been driving at this point for about 25, 30 years. Same roads, same everything. So he knew them by the back of his hand. So speed limits to my uncle were kind of optional because he knew when the turn was, how the road was going to do, how his rig would handle that turn, and he'd take it at his speed, not necessarily the speed recommended. So one of the younger guys decided they were going to stay right on Uncle Bob's ass all the way through. They were going to stay with him the whole time. and Uncle took the turn, the 90-degree turn, and it was fine. The truck behind him, however, jackknifed the trailer and ended up in the ditch. So Uncle carried on because he's got a job to do, and the guy was fine. So Uncle Bob carried on. So Uncle gets back to the yard, and he's handing in his keys so he can go home. And he walks into the boss talking to Junior. And Junior's exact excuse when the boss says, "What the hell were you thinking?" His exact excuse, "Well, Bob does it all the time."
Rookie.
And my Uncle Bob just kind of peeked over because he heard his name. And the boss's reaction was, "Yeah, but Bob can drive." So my uncle had his ego stroke for about 5 minutes and then came home and had a few beers. Yeah, but
Yeah,
Bob can drive.
there's things you can do as an experienced guy that rookies just should not. But yeah, should not try. Because I did the same thing. I went, like I said, I went in and out of Canada for 10 years, going through Montana and up and down mountain passes and 25, 35 mile an hour corners, and you learn exactly how to take those corners so that you can do it as fast as possible.
Yeah.
You know what part of the apex to hit, where you need to be. But somebody else behind, I had a buddy, I went through there one night and he had driven just as longer than me. And I got north up to towards Great Falls, and I look behind me and he's gone. I can't see. And I'm like, where the hell? So I called him on the cell phone. I'm like, dude, what happened to you? He's like, holy shit, dude, you're taking those corners way too fast. And I'm just like, hey man, I'm sorry, but he almost rolled a truck once, so he was scared of corners. Yeah. And I'm just like, well, sorry, I don't know what to tell you. I'll slow down and let you catch up to me. He's like, gee, many Christmas, I ain't never going with you up there again. I'm like, sorry.
Yeah. Well, as my uncle put it, he says, I have this down to clockwork, and I have beers waiting for me.
Yeah.
I have to make the LC. But back to our conversation today, these truckers are just doing their job. Now, their personal beliefs and their personal choices, it's not like they're saying that they're not going to take a road test to do their job, right? This is a vaccine. This is not whether they have or don't have the vaccine has no impact on whether they can do the damn job or not, right? It doesn't impact the job at all. So this isn't, well, we're now bringing in that you have to get your eyes checked to make sure that you can still see in front of you, right? You have to pass the eye exam. Well, that's acceptable. That's safety. That's so that, you don't have a half-blind guy behind a rig that could kill everybody in front of him. Mm-hmm. That makes sense. This is a vaccine.
Well, it's more than that. The Toronto Star has already gone off and said that the leader of the Freedom Convoy is a right hate group, nationalist, blah, blah, and that the Sons of Odin, and that he was playing pagan rock Viking music. It's a Monomarth. I listen to it too, so they can suck it. Pagan, evil pagan rock Viking metal music. On the video where this helmet of Odin appeared, and that's enough to. Apparently, that's all you have to do. Just come by my channel. I'm sure that, in the mornings, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m., I have all kinds of shit like that. I'm sure they're going to be coming after me next. That, alt-right, Black Rom. That's the music I use. Black Rom, known hate group of Valhalla, Loki's Valhalla. I'm sure I'm next, fuckers.
But, I mean, isn't it amazing how just whatever it is, it's bad. Like, they'll take whatever it is that somebody's using that is in opposition to them and kind of twist it somehow to make it seem like somehow the Vikings are a terrible people. And it's just like, but that's okay because they're white.
That's right.
And nobody cares,
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, they just twist it all around to try and make something that's just a normal average thing, just a hate crime or a terrible, and it's just like, hey, does it even make sense that you're about to force a group of men and women that spend 90% of their time at work by themselves to get a vaccine?
Yeah.
It's like 90% of the time they won't even be interacting with another human being.
No. And if my uncle is any indication, or truckers I've known, what's that? I pulled in. Okay, I'm going to sleep. Unload my truck. Like they're not even interacting with the dock workers. It's I parked my truck. It's right there. You know how to get in. I'm going to lay down now.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's crazy, because what threat did they cause? And here's the other thing that really blows my mind. The mandate right now, or the mantra I should say, is the reason we're in so much trouble is because this 10% hasn't gotten vaccinated yet. What? Yeah. It's
But
all
if the
those.
90%'s vaccinated and they're
Yeah.
protected, how are they threatened by the 10% who haven't? If the vaccine works, how are they being hurt by the 10%? Isn't it just the 10% who are taking the risk? And it's like, well, no, because see, if you don't get it, you're a super spreader. It's just like, yeah, but you got the vaccine, so you're protected, right?
What are
Yeah,
we in
but
the
see,
turtles now? Super shredder.
yeah, it's just, oh my gosh, I'm like,
But here's the other grand scheme of this. Okay, so you're telling me that the minority, this fringe minority, is the problem. Let's not talk about all the cuts to healthcare that you've done over the last 10 years. Let's not talk about all the emergency rooms you've shut down over the last 10 years. Let's not talk about all the nurses that you have stopped funding for over the last 10 years. Let's not talk about all of the cuts to the Canadian healthcare system. Let's just blame 10%. But all this had nothing to do with the fact that our hospitals are fact, because we've been cutting them for the last 10 years. That had nothing to do with it. I mean, let's be honest, folks.
No, it's just there's no logic to any of their arguments. Once you start applying logic to anything they say, it all falls apart. Their arguments don't make sense. The precautionary measures don't make sense. I mean, it's all nonsense. But that's not the point. The point is they get you to do the nonsense. That they want you to learn to obey. They're teaching you to be no more than a dog on their leash. That's what this whole exercise is about. Is just controlling people, getting people used to doing exactly what they're told when they're told to do it. And that's what those truckers are upset about. And they're not the only group. It just happens to be that this is a group that's finally had enough and is standing up and saying, you know what, we've taken your overregulation for 30, 40, 50 years. This is the straw. We're not doing this anymore because we already have to deal with all of your crap. I mean, any other person who had to deal with what a truck driver deals with every day at work, I mean, there'd be an uprising. If you, when you went into your job, had to do what a truck driver has to do, you have to, like, from the moment you get up in the morning, you have to do this. And then when you get to work, if you go to the bathroom, you got to keep track of that. And then when you do this, you have to keep track of that. And at any point during the day, somebody in your office can walk up to you, say, papers, please. And you have to hand them this logbook that you've been keeping. And if you've made so much as a minor mistake, they can put you in timeout for 10 hours and give you a huge fine. Well, Brian, you said you went to the bathroom at 10:15. The security camera shows you going at 10:17. We're sorry, that's falsifying your logbook. We're gonna have to fine you $10,000.
Oh, yeah, and they love that. They love that. they love that. I got pulled over. DOT pulled me over. It was late December. DOT pulls me over. It's snowing outside. I've got to get out of my truck, stand outside of my truck. I'm standing outside, freezing my fucking balls off outside of my truck, talking to this DOT cop. I light a cigarette. $2,000 fucking fine because I'm within 25 feet of the truck right there, busted me for it. And he let me fucking light it. The motherfucker let me light it and take a drag off of it, and then it was like $2,000 fine. You're within 25 feet of the truck.
Yeah, they've turned. And see, this is the thing. I disagree with the whole, defund the police and everything. But there is a problem with how policing is done now. They've turned police, instead of into public servants and protectors of the public, they've turned them into babysitters and tax collectors by creating a bunch of rules and laws that don't make sense. Like seatbelt laws. They can pull you over and tell you to put your seatbelt on. It's like, hey, asshole, did you buy this car? Then how dare you tell me what to, as long as I'm not endangering anybody else, why is that a law? Whether you agree with seatbelts or not, it's like that should be a personal choice because it doesn't affect anybody else. That's what the Constitution, the whole basis behind the Constitution is. It protects me from you and you from me. Anything above and beyond that, it's unconstitutional.
And the government got away with the seatbelt law because they said they'd pull every state's funding for the road funding. We're just not going to give you funding for your roads if you don't make it a law in your state.
Yeah. And why the states didn't just go, well, then we won't send you tax money. Yep. It's like you can't take from us what we don't give to you. And that's what the states and the provinces and stuff, they need. I mean, that's what the whole Constitution is. It's to protect us from an authoritarian government, whether that's a state, local, or federal government. And that's what these truck drivers are trying to do. They're trying to draw attention to the fact that your freedoms have been taken from you. They just did it slowly so that you wouldn't notice. You are the frog in the pot of water. And, God bless them for trying to do what they're trying to do.
And, like the mantra that you've heard that makes me annoyed and why I decided to do this stream is the mantra is, how dare they do this? Right? How dare they protest this? How dare they take their truck? What a lot of people don't realize is a lot of those truckers that are driving are probably owner ops.
Mm-hmm.
And those that decided that, well, you know what, I'm going to take the company truck on a countrywide. Here's the problem with that. A lot of those company trucks, they're all GPS chipped.
Yep.
Like, a lot of people don't realize this, but there is a lot of things within that truck that if the company really didn't want them to do things, they wouldn't be doing them because that truck just all of a sudden wouldn't start.
Yeah.
Like, sorry, but yeah, they every truck is tracked. Most of them.
See, and what people don't understand is how much it's just like farmers. Farmers and truckers are the most powerful groups in any country right now. The problem is you can't get them together. It's like herding chickens.
Yeah.
Like they will undermine themselves and undercut their own interests because if this company stops hauling to prove a point, we'll sweep in there and steal those accounts.
Yeah.
And it's just like, yeah, but if we all banded together, we could put people back on their heels and we could write our own ticket. But you'll never get them together and stuff because seriously, they did a study within 3 days. If the truck stopped rolling within 3 days or less, every gas station, grocery store, every single thing would be stripped to the bone.
Yeah.
That's how short of a time it takes. And in the big cities, it's much less time than that. And so, I mean, everybody's out there. Nobody gives a shit about the truckers till their shelves go empty. And then you're all just like, thank the truckers. It's all great. And the second the shelves are full, oh, fuck the truckers. You guys suck. And I don't know how many times I get told a day that I'm number one. I
Yeah.
mean, it's just, and I'm like, really? This is like, I mean, it's, and as this four-wheeler goes zipping in front of me, and I'm just like, you realize you only were able to buy that car that you just flipped me off in because a car hauler took it to a dealership for you to do that.
Yeah.
Like, seriously, every single thing you ever purchased came or was on a truck at some point during its life cycle.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying, oh, just let the trucks run wild and stuff like that. I agree with common sense regulations and the appropriate amount of restrictions. But it's just like with everything with the government, they take something that's broken and they fix it till it's broken worse.
Yeah.
And it's just like, well, thanks. Now what was bad is absolutely horrendous. And you're going after the wrong people. They harass every trucker instead of the ones that are really causing the problem. The ones that are running down the road on bald tires. The ones that are running down with wheels wobbling off the side of their... It's just like, no, they'll pull over the company guy that's in a brand new truck.
Yeah.
Because they think, hey, that guy's got money. We can get money out of him. That poor bastard that just went by in that wobbling wheel truck, he can't pay us anything.
Yeah.
And then they have the balls to say, it's all about safety, keeping the public safe. I'm like, no, it isn't. No, it is not.
No. Well, like, you sit there and you look at it like this. Whether they're right or wrong is irrelevant to me. And I say that, and I don't mean that to be mean or malicious, but it's irrelevant to me. Because if we can sit there and say that BLM has the right to protest, this one has the right to protest, that one doesn't.
Yep. It's either equal or nothing.
Yeah. My argument is if they're peaceful, if they are non-destructive, then let them speak. Because here's the thing, whether they, I guess they haven't watched history or read history, but every time somebody is silenced, that group gets more radical. Every time. If you had stopped and listened at the beginning, they wouldn't have had to escalate to where they are now.
That or they're silenced and then never heard from ever again.
Yeah.
That too.
Yep.
That too. But in order for us to be able to sit there and go, okay, we agree that if you believe this, you should be able to stand up for that. Whether you're right or wrong is irrelevant. It really is. But unfortunately, it's not that way.
But as long as you're peaceful,
yeah,
and you're not hurting anybody else, then I don't have a problem with a protest and stuff. But I mean, just like what happened in our country last year with the BLM riots, those weren't peaceful protests; those were riots. People were killed, property was damaged, and we got the media out there going, "Oh, this mostly peaceful protest," as buildings are burning behind them. And I'm just like, I don't think you understand what that word means.
No,
it's just like, from Princess Bride, where it's like, you keep using that word. I don't think it means what you think it means. It's like,
yeah.
I'm like, exactly. but it suited their narrative, and that's all they cared about.
Yeah. And the other thing too is, if you think about it, there's an old thing where they say you should leave church and state separate. Well, I think we should leave, what's a good word for that? Modern ideologies and state separate, because it's really annoying.
Yeah. The problem is that common sense and government have been separated. And it's just
for
like,
years.
No, we really need to put those
actually
back together.
not to correct speaker, but I think common sense and humanity have been separated for a few years.
Yeah, I would agree.
You know,
Well, when crazy is made to seem normal, I mean, it's just like the that Trump after or that Trump that protest after Trump got elected with the women's march and stuff. I sat there watching it, going, "Oh my God, people are dressed as vaginas walking down the street, and everybody's okay." I'm like,
Yeah.
I mean, the guy hadn't been president for 5 minutes. I'm like, and I didn't vote for him the first time because I wasn't sure who he really was. I didn't vote for anybody. I'm just like,
I abstain.
Yeah, I was just like, well, let's see. I'm voting for evil or evil, so I'm just not going to vote. And I mean, Trump ended up being way better than I ever thought he was going to be, and I was wrong about that. I didn't agree with everything he did or the way he talked, but I'm just like, you could tell he actually cared about the country and wanted it to succeed, if nothing else.
Honestly, I think one of the things in the last few years that really speaks to how far we have fallen, and this is another one of those oops, is when you had to repaint a car because it had a bad flag on the top of it.
Just a good old boy.
Yeah.
Never meaning no harm.
When you had to repaint a car.
Uh-oh. Looks like the brothers are in trouble again.
Yep.
God, I watched that almost religiously when I was a kid.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
And there was
nothing racist in that show.
No.
Ever.
No.
Nope.
And everybody liked the Daisy Duke, I tell you that much.
got a whole type of pants named after her, Daisy Duke. I mean, or lack of pants. Maybe
yeah, or lack of, yeah. but
I mean, but that's just it. They take something. I mean, I understand that was the Confederate flag, and the Confederate flag stood for what it did. But I mean, eventually that came to mean something else to the South.
Yeah.
It wasn't stagnant. It didn't remain a symbol of slavery and intolerance and stuff. Just like the swastika, Hitler stole that. That was like a Hindu symbol. And he took it and bastardized it, and now it's been forever stained. And it's just like, but it really shouldn't be, because somebody else had that way before. And I mean, it's really sad that we don't it's one of the things I liked about Dan Brown's books when he talked about symbolism. I mean, when you really kind of understand where everything comes from, I was just like, man, it's so easy to twist something that was good into something that's bad, and vice versa. But people get hung up and won't let stuff go.
Well, and I think what we can say, I'll say it. The problem with modern, what's the best way to put this? With modern anger about certain symbols or statues or et cetera, is the people who have the anger don't do the research.
Yeah.
A prime example of that, something that pissed me off last year. There was a war memorial vandalized in Europe. And they painted swastikas and the sign through it, and how dare you, and da-da-da-da. The problem is the monument that they were defacing was for World War I German vets, not World War II.
They don't care. It's all the same.
Yeah.
It's all the same to them. They don't care.
They don't understand. And if
they
they
don't want
to understand, they twist it. Like I said,
and it's talking points. Arguments are talking points now.
Yeah.
There's no
Not reasoned out thought like it
No.
used to be.
No, it's just talking points. And once they run out of talking points, my dad used to tell me that if you're in a debate with somebody and they have to resort to name calling or insulting you personally, you've already won.
Yep.
Because they've ran out of arguments. The second you have to discredit, demoralize, or insult the person that you're talking to, you've already lost. Because if you have to resort to, oh well, they're just a bunch of Nazis, or they're just a bunch of bigots. If you have to resort to that, if that is the best argument you have against them, you've already lost.
Yep. Sorry, I think I interrupted Loki before. Did I cut you off, Loki? I apologize.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
No. Not that I know of. I know I'm going to have to go here in a minute.
Yeah, I'm going to wrap this up. We've been going for over an hour. So I'm going to give everybody final thoughts, starting with speaker.
Just put yourself in somebody else's shoes. That would be my advice to everybody. The next time you think you need to flip off a trucker, just remember that guy's probably been driving for 11 hours. And as a truck driver, don't be an asshole. If you're a truck driver and you're thinking, I'm going to be a jerk, don't. Just be good to each other. I mean, and the only thing we need to do is fight against tyranny. Don't fight against each other. Fight against the people who want to pitch you against each other, because they're the enemy, not your neighbors, not the people that live next door to you. They're probably victims of misinformation just as much as sometimes we are. Look for the truth. Don't always just accept the easy explanation. And I don't know. Just we need to stop being tribal and choosing teams. And we actually need to listen to each other once in a while, whether we agree or not. I don't care if somebody disagrees with me. I do care if they're disagreeable about it. So then that's where I go.
Well
So I'll
said,
leave
sir.
it.
Well said. All right, Loki, final thoughts.
From the very beginning of when I started talking on YouTube and guesting, I've said, use your voice, speak your voice. Don't be afraid to speak your voice. Don't let anybody silence you from speaking your voice. And a lot of what I read in that Toronto Telegram or whatever the hell it was that I was reading it on was very much this person should not be speaking. This person should not be leading this convoy. This person should not be doing this. Do not let people run you off. I've been blamed for shit. I've had fingers pointed at me. How dare you tell me to get on YouTube and say something and I'm like, what the fuck? Use your voice if you want to use your voice. If you don't. You don't have to, but don't be afraid. A lot of this fear mongering and shit, that's all it is fear mongering and trying to get people to be afraid to speak up, be afraid to stand up, be afraid to speak their mind. You're wrong for speaking your mind today. You're an ist, you're an ob, you're a Yahtzee, you're a whatever they want to label you. That's what you are for speaking your mind. Don't be afraid to speak your mind. Don't be afraid to encourage other people to speak their mind. Even when they come back and they're like, you're a horrible person telling me to get up on a YouTube stream and say something. Fuck that. Encourage other people to speak their mind, because you know what? If we don't, we're going to lose the ability to speak our mind. And once that happens, we're all fucked. So.
I agree.
Amen.
And so for me, I would just like to say, my mom, I'm going to end this with a story about my mom and why I feel so strongly when it comes to truckers. My mother, at one point in her life, used to work at a truck stop. She used to serve coffee to truckers on a daily basis over at a Husky's in Headingley. And my mom used to have to drive out of the city into Headingley to do her job. And it came a point where these young little bastards decided that they were going to pick on my mother. and they, on several occasions, tried to drive my mother off the road. To the point where my mom got to work one night shaking and crying because they almost did it. They'd do it every day. It was like clockwork. They knew when my mom was coming under the underpass, and they'd time it, and they'd try to run my mother off the road for 4 days. And finally, my mother got to the point where she was ready to quit. She was talking to the manager, and she was like, I have to quit. I can't do this anymore. They're going to get me one day. They almost got me tonight. I can't do this anymore. But near the end of my mother's shift, one of the truckers from Cleveland Trucking came up to my mother and said, I'm heading out tomorrow, and I expect you to be here to serve me my coffee. And my mother told him the whole story again, and he goes, I expect you here to serve me my coffee. And my mother, after thinking about it, she went, okay, I'm going to go into work, but if they do it again, that's it. I'm done. So my mother gets underneath that underpass. She gets out of the city, and sure enough, this green car comes up behind her. Same green car that's been harassing her for 4 days. And they start to get really close to my mother's bumper. At that point, all you heard was the semi's horn from behind. They had blocked off the back end of the number 1 highway. Then they blocked off in front of my mother. They let my mother go, and they said, we'll see you in a couple minutes. When the trucker got back into the Huskies, he went to my mother and says, don't worry, we explained to him that you don't mess with somebody who serves us coffee, and he will never bother you again. So I owe my mother's safety to a bunch of truckers. Took time out of their day to explain to some young punks that running a woman off the road was improper behavior. And they had bigger trucks and could run him off the road faster. So
I'm thinking somebody got an ass whooping.
I'm thinking so too, because it was 2 Kenworths. It was they blocked off the number 1, so it was a couple of trucks. And as my mom puts it, they opened up just enough for my car to go, and they closed it back. And they were gone for a few minutes. And you don't mess with their coffee, and you don't mess with a trucker. And so I was brought up to always acknowledge them, always thank them, because at the end of the day, everything we have is because of them. They are taking time away from their families. They are working long hours. A trucker's day doesn't end when he turns off the engine. They still have to check the load. They still have to check the truck. And in a lot of ways, their house is their truck for a lot of their lives, especially long-distance truckers. So whether you agree with them or not, put a little respect on them, because they deserve it. They've earned it. So whether they're right, they're wrong, whether you agree with them or you don't agree with them, give them the respect they deserve and let them be heard. And with that, I'm going to thank everyone in chat. Thank Speaker for joining us. Thank Minion for joining us, who had to carry on her job. And thank you to Loki for joining us this evening. And just a quick reminder, karaoke will roll at 9:05, and there may or may not be a CW song that starts it off. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure there's a song that I'm going to start off with that, well, is a little fitting to this stream. But for copyright reasons, I can't play it. Damn it!
You can't blame me for that. It's not my fault.
No. Orchestrated by Canuck. Let's blame it on you. Blame it on. And quickly, I see there's a tip in the tip drawer from Troy. Thank you so very much. I greatly appreciate that. And again, thank you to my panel, and to everybody in chat. Thank you. We kept this a peaceful Discord, and I greatly appreciate that. And till next time, take her easy, folks.
Thank
Later.